Hi there. In this video, I'll show you the process of implementing a dynamic dialogue system with Wwise and Unreal Engine. Here's the final product.
Welcome to Unreal Burger. Step up to the counter when you're ready to order. What would you like to order? Sorry, we don't serve that here. How about a burger? We don't have pizza. Order something else. Weren't you listening? I said there's no pizza. I'll ask again. What would you like to order? Great, that'll be $4.95. Come again.
I wrote a draft of the dialogue tree in a Word document. I liked the concept of modeling a dialogue tree by ordering food, so I wrote one response for ordering a burger and 3 responses for ordering pizza. I knew that I wanted to keep the conversation fairly simple, where I'd only need one switch group. This definitely went through some iteration, but this is fairly close to the implemented dialogue. The only difference is that in Unreal Engine, the last line for choosing pizza goes back to the top of the dialogue tree instead of going directly to the food selection. In Wwise, I made 3 events that were used in Unreal Engine. One event was for the greeting upon starting the level, one was for ordering the food, and one was for resetting the ordering food playlist. At one point, I was stuck trying to troubleshoot one of these events, so I came up with an alternate solution that I will also show you. After creating a dialogue audio bus under the master audio bus, I created an actor mixer called DX Cashier. In this actor mixer, I set the output bus as the dialogue bus and checked the box that says Use Game-Defined Aux Sends. I imported the 6 audio files as sound voices and put them into the DX Cashier actor mixer. For the clip titled DX Cashier Greeting 01, I set the 3D spatialization to position and orientation. I also added a new attenuation, simply called Cashier Greeting Attenuation. It took some time playtesting in Unreal Engine before I settled on the max distance and a curve shape for the attenuation. After this, I created an event to play this voice line before moving on to designing the dialogue tree in Wwise. In the GameSyncs tab, I created a switch group called Food and created a switch called Burger and another switch called Pizza. Back in the Audio tab, I created a sequence container called DX Cashier Order, and within that sequence container, I created 3 switch containers. Each switch container has food as its selected switch group and pizza as its default switch. I put a different pizza response in each switch container while copying the same burger response for each container. I then assigned the respective switches to each response. I also included the audio clip named DX Cashier Question 01 in the sequence container since it's the first line that starts at the top of the dialogue tree. In the sequence container, I then populated the playlist with this audio clip and the 3 switch containers based on how I wanted the dialogue to flow. I kept the play mode as step, then created an event that plays this sequence container. This event also stops the cashier greeting line, just so there's no overlap between the greeting and food order.
Welcome to Unreal Burger. Step up to the... What would you like to order?
I also created an event that resets the sequence containers playlist. I wasn't able to get this working properly at first, but I then realized that the scope of this dialogue reset event was on GameObject and not global, while the sequence container scope was global by default. After changing the scope to global in the ordering food reset event, I was able to successfully reset the sequence containers playlist. As I mentioned, I came up with a second solution as I was troubleshooting this issue. I created a blend container, then copied all of the contents of the sequence container into that blend container. I then went to the GameSyncs tab and created an RTPC for the blend container with a range from -1 to 3. I created a blend track, then populated it similarly to what I did with the playlist of the sequence container. I then checked the box that says crossfade, set the RTPC as the one that I just made, and I adjusted the ranges. A blend container plays everything at once, so setting the specific ranges is necessary to make sure only one line is heard while making the other lines inaudible. I would have then adjusted the RTPC value each time the event was played. This wasn't the most practical solution, but it was one that I considered until I was finally able to solve my initial problem with resetting the sequence container playlist. It's also worth mentioning that to avoid triggering multiple overlapping dialogue lines, I limited the sound instances to one in the advanced settings of the sequence container.
Sorry, we don't serve that. We don't have pizza. Order something else.
For this version of Wwise 2022.1, I wanted to test out auto-defined soundbanks, which is an expansion of event-based packaging. Essentially, you don't need to assign events to soundbanks anymore, as events can now be individually loaded and unloaded in Unreal Engine. It still seems that you need to have at least one user-defined soundbank with an event assigned to it in order to populate the Wwise picker in Unreal Engine. So I just placed the greeting event into this DX cashier user-defined soundbank and generated all soundbanks. The last thing that I'll point out about Wwise is how you could make a dialogue event in the Events tab. This can be handy when you have to set multiple switches to play several lines of dialogue. I chose to stick with regular Wwise events for two reasons though. The Wwise picker in Unreal Engine doesn't seem to automatically recognize dialogue events compared to regular events. Also, with a dialogue system this simple, using a dialogue event just didn't seem necessary. If anyone has more information of implementing dialogue events from Wwise in Unreal Engine, definitely feel free to share any info or resources. After creating the scene with Unreal Starter content and the third-person template, I made the dialogue system in Unreal Engine using a few tutorial videos from Reids Channel on YouTube. I won't go into all of the little details of how this dialogue tree was made, so I definitely recommend that you check out their tutorial series if you want to design your own dialogue system in Unreal. To give a broad description of how it was made, the dialogue tree is a behavior tree with 3 tasks: speak, reply, and exit. The event graph of each task essentially controls the action of that task. I also created a widget that I named Dialogue Widget. The nodes in this widget's event graph ensures that the dialogue tree is accurately presented to the player. The dialogue widget is also where I created the blueprint nodes to play audio from Wwise. In the dialogue tree, a reply index assigns a value of 0 or 1 depending on whether the player chooses the burger or the pizza. In the dialogue widget, when the player clicks a response, I placed a node to return the value of the reply index and connected this to a branch node. The logic here is that if the value of the reply index is less than 1, the Wwise switch will be set to burger. If this statement is false and the reply index is equal to 1, the Wwise switch will then be set to pizza. Each set switch node was then connected to this getPlayerCharacter node for an actor object reference. The following speak task will then play in the dialogue tree. All I had to do here was add a post-event node, set the AK event to DX cashier order, and again attach a getPlayerCharacter node for an actor object reference. The first task of the dialogue tree is the speak task. Since the first thing the cashier says isn't in a switch container, a reply isn't necessary to set a switch for the speak task. Once the player orders a burger, the speak task will play, followed by the exit task. Similar to the speak task, all I had to do for the exit task was add a post-event node, set the AK event to DX cashier order reset, and attach a getPlayerCharacter node for an actor object reference. After this, compile and save everything. At the start of the level, I wanted the cashier to greet the player. To do this, I first placed the DX cashier greeting event into the scene to create an AK ambient sound. I placed it directly in front of the cashier. I then opened the level blueprint and placed these 4 nodes. Attached to the event begin play node is a 1-second delay node. After that, I placed a post-event node, set the AK event to DX cashier greeting, added the DX cashier greeting AK ambient sound to the event graph and connected it to the post-event node for an actor object reference. And that's it. Here's another look at the final product.
Welcome to Unreal Burger. Step up to the counter when you're ready to order. What would you like to order? Sorry, we don't serve that here. How about a burger? We don't have pizza. Order something else. Weren't you listening? I said there's no pizza. I'll ask again. What would you like to order? Great. That'll be $4.95. Come again.
It took a bit of trial and error at the start, but I was really pleased with how the audio system turned out in the end. As I mentioned, I didn't go over how to actually make the core dialogue system in Unreal Engine, so I highly recommend checking out the tutorials on Reids Channel for more info. I'll link them in the description. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.